Time once again for the BTO Sunday recap. I'm Kevin Bunk, Mike Merlo with me every Sunday. Of course, this week we're on a Monday. Last week we're on a Tuesday. But holidays have thrown us off the schedule, of course. Happy New Year. Mike had a fun night last night, late night. He's real good sport waking up, getting here at the early hour of 10 o'clock for this. Great work, Mike.
Yeah, commitment through the roof right now, but Happy New Year. Big time 2024 coming up.
Huge 2024 coming up. All right. Awesome day of football yesterday.
Yeah.
But before we do yesterday, Saturday night, Lions-Cowboys. Lions get absolutely hosed by the refs at the end of the game. Dan Campbell probably made the most boneheaded series of coaching calls of the season. Your thoughts, your takeaways from that one?
Yeah, first off, I'm so confused by the end of the game. But, I think there was a lot of anticipation heading into that Saturday night game. And it started off slow defense, kind of sloppy offensive play. I thought Ben Johnson, who is the number one choice for many teams to become their next head coach if you have a vacancy in the offseason, I thought he had a rough game. They really stuck with the third down runs, even second and short, third and short. They were running that football. And towards the end, they started to get a push and they started to get the first downs. But, Kevin, how many plays were blown up in the backfield on third and short where now they have to punt because they didn't block Parsons or they didn't block DeMarcus Lawrence? So I thought some of the play calling was questionable early on in the game. And then obviously the end of the game, you have to question Campbell. I understand the premise of going for two and trying to win, but then after the penalty, getting backed up, I would have kicked it.
I'll play devil's advocate here too. So if you're a coach and your team's relatively healthy, the Lions, for the most part, all of their starters are healthy. All the guys they need to make a run are healthy. And if you're a coach and you're in that situation, you have one game left after this, you've clinched a playoff spot. I know there's a one seed possibility, but in reality, you're probably not going to get it. Do you want your guys playing for that extra quarter on the road, or are you just saying, hey, no matter what, we're going for it and we're getting out of here?
No, I totally understand going for it, like going for the win. I understand. And he's an aggressive guy, and that's part of his nature. So he's going to go for it. But I think after you get backed up, and yeah, it works out anywhere where you get the penalty and then you get to do it again from the two. After I got backed up, I would have tied it, played in overtime. You still can get a 2 seed with a win. So it's not like you were just playing for a possible chance at a 1 seed or where you are now at a 3 seed. Like there were still something to play for. There was still a chance to knock Dallas out of the division race as well. So again, going for 2 in the moment at the 2, I get, not after the penalty.
But do you think on that second one they were ever going to actually go for it? On the long one from the
snapped
7?
it. They snapped it.
But they snapped it once Parsons jumped. I don't think they were ever going to go for that.
I think they were going.
I don't think so.
It looked as though they were going.
I think that they did a great job of selling it. But listen, with Dan Campbell, it wouldn't surprise me. So it's pointless to even sit here and argue because one, we don't know. And two, if any coach in the league is going to do that, Brandon Staley's out the door. So Dan Campbell's the only guy left.
Did you hear what happened? Jay Glazer reported it on Sunday morning on Fox about how there were contractors at Campbell's house. Somebody called contractors to his house, banging on his door early in the morning on Sunday after the game. Yeah, somebody prank. It might have been a prank. It might have been a mistake. Somebody called contractors to Campbell's house. He doesn't need contractors, and they're banging on the door New Year's Eve morning, waking him up. Yeah,
after all he's done for them.
Yeah, tough 12 hours for Campbell.
Really tough 12 hours. So now they're going to be the 3 seed.
Yeah.
Probably no matter what. And, what would have to happen next week? Dallas and Philly would have to lose, and the Lions win.
Yeah, to get the 2. Yeah, because they would be.
Yeah, so that's out the window. Dallas plays Washington this week.
Yeah.
So that's done.
Yeah, they're the 3 seed, and what does it look like right now? Would it possibly be the Rams? I'm really
the Rams right now.
Really hoping for that matchup.
That would be awesome. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. Obviously, the Stafford thing is what everyone's going to talk about, but the Rams would win that game. The Rams would go into Detroit and I think win that football game.
Yeah, I wonder what the point spread would be. I think it's going to be a low number because I think a lot of smart people would agree with you, Kevin. I think the Rams would go into that game playing their best football and with, I think, the better quarterback and the better coach.
Not often that a lot of smart people agree with me.
Yes, this is a first, Kevin. So
This
congratulations
would be a
on that.
first. And you know what? When they do, they usually look like idiots. So
Yeah, maybe we should just take the Lions in the game.
So yesterday, the most anticipated. Well, actually, I want to stay with Saturday for one more second.
Yeah.
Can the Cowboys make a run, or this is the same team from the last 5-6 years?
This is the same team. And yeah, I listen, you would know better than I would. Should McCarthy be criticized for some coaching mistakes on Saturday? Because I was reading that he got kind of bailed out by Campbell making the choices he made, and that being the topic of conversation, and not how bad McCarthy was in the game.
McCarthy's definitely not great, and it shows this time of year. But nobody really likes to say it about Dallas for some reason. I just don't think they have the players.
They're undisciplined.
I don't think they have the players to. I mean, if you look at Detroit's offense, I think Detroit has more talent on their offense. CeeDee Lamb is unbelievable, but after him, I don't really feel great about the weapons. I mean, nothing would keep me up at night.
Pollard, man, he takes forever to get going. And he's
a real true home run hitter. I mean, he is not getting you the tough 3-4 yards up the middle between the tackles. It just doesn't happen with Pollard.
And Dallas is very smart with contracts and drafting in general. And they, obviously they've had really good teams for a very long time. They didn't sign him to an extension, right? So they can let Pollard walk. And that's one of the easier decisions of the offseason for me. Let Pollard walk. Because he clearly cannot be the feature back. You need to have another guy with him splitting or taking, 35, 40% of the carries to go along with him because he can't handle the full workload.
No, he can't. Running backs take way too much of a beating. There's just a few guys in the league that could actually do 20, 25 carries a game, 30 touches. Pollard's not one of those guys, and he's a good change of pace guy, great third down back, but he's just not the weapon that a lot of people thought he would turn into. I didn't see it with him before this year as far as being a star back. I really didn't see it coming. I like him, though. I think he's a good player. Just no more than like an end-of-career Darren Sproles.
Interesting.
If that's fair to say. Sproles in his prime was way better. But, all right, let's move on to Sunday. Game of the day, Ravens-Dolphins. 1-seed battle in Baltimore. You texted me yesterday morning. I didn't even think about it, but it was a great point. Biggest game the Dolphins have played in the last decade. Really, decade plus. I'd have to go back, but biggest game they played.
Yeah, and that's all credit to me. I didn't even steal that from anybody. So
that's good. Usually you steal from someone. You don't come up with your own good stuff.
No, that was my take. And really thinking about it, you had mentioned their last few playoff games, backup quarterbacks, really no chance to win the game, except that one. I think it's Pittsburgh. Am I correct on that? They almost won with the backup quarterback.
Yeah, Matt Moore.
Yeah, they almost won the game with Matt Moore.
Matt Moore got his head taken off.
Yes.
On the first or second drive of the game, and then they had a third string in. I couldn't even tell you who it is. And last year, they almost won with Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, they really almost won. That was a close game with Skylar Thompson. You could argue they should have won that game. But yeah, they laid an egg, Kevin. If there any surprise, this Baltimore Ravens team, and we spoke about who's the most dominant team in the league last week, and I might just have to say I was wrong. Maybe it just is Baltimore, and it might not be for the reasons that a lot of people think. I still think the defense is getting undervalued. It's that good. And to put up the performance they did, even with Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert out in that game, it's a very impressive performance. And now you set up an absolute banger of a matchup on Sunday night with the Bills and the Dolphins.
I tell you what, best thing the NFL's done in the last few years. I mean, they expand the season, right? But not putting times in until the week before the game was so smart, because every year we have one of these games on primetime now. And it would have been, if Miami had won yesterday, it would have been Ravens-Browns for the 1 seed. So it just, the possibilities are endless with week 18, and every year Sunday Night Football, we're going to get a good matchup going into it at least. But I tell you what, Mike, after what these Dolphins did yesterday, I don't think you're going to be sitting there in the fourth quarter saying this was a good game. Buffalo is hot. They're playing their best football. Miami is not. Yesterday, biggest game in 10 years. You lose 56-19, and then not a fault on anyone. Bradley Chubb's done. Jalen Phillips has been done for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
It's done. It's over. Miami, not your year. It's not going to happen. And they showed their true colors to me yesterday. If you're not able to step in to a road game against the best team in your conference and put up a fight, you don't have to win. You did not have to win this game. You have to put up a fight and show me that you can stop the MVP a little bit. They didn't.
Where were their questions?
Lamar had his best game of the season.
Yeah, and he locked up the MVP, which, again, the numbers still don't look like over the top, but he definitely padded them a little bit yesterday with 5 touchdowns and no picks.
Let's have that quick conversation because you can see all of our MVP choices coming into the week before the games. We posted them on Thursday or Friday on BTO Instagram. You can see all of them there. But the two of us absolutely agree that Allen is a top 2 candidate for MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, we absolutely agree at the quarterback position, at least, that they're the 2 best. Do you also feel with me that Lamar has been the best quarterback this year, despite the stats? Because I do feel that way. Nobody's played the quarterback position better than Lamar. I think his receivers are not as good as advertised, with the exception of Zay Flowers. They've had a lot of drops this year. Odell has not been that good this year. High ticket free agent, $15 million. He's showed he's on the other side of his career now. Mark Andrews out. I think that Lamar has played the best quarterback position.
I think Purdy has.
Okay.
I think Purdy has this season, not to take anything away from Lamar. I think you could also say Allen, but I understand where you're coming from with Jackson. And he's the MVP now. I mean, that's it. He does have lackluster weapons. They're not, like you mentioned, they're not as good as advertised. He does have a great offensive line. They run the ball. And I think the running game, he has to get credit for. They don't have the greatest backs in the world, right? But they have a good offensive line, and his threat to also run the ball, it's impressive. The thing with Lamar, and the reason why he was my preseason MVP pick, and I'll take credit for that now. He was my preseason MVP pick. And the reason why was I thought he would run the ball, not as much, and he has. But I thought the passing numbers would be up a little bit. I thought he'd have a little bit more yards, some more touchdown passes. And, again, after Sunday, they've gone up after a big game. But I still thought there would be a little bit more, which is why he would get the MVP. But, I mean, you add in the rushing numbers. I'm okay with it now. Like, okay, he's the MVP. That's fine. I won't argue it anymore.
And this is a weird one. This is a point I'm going to make that I don't love, but Gus Edwards has been so dominant at the goal line and in short yardage situations. If they just had the Sirianni approach or the Joe Brady approach, Lamar would have 15, maybe 20 touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah, but I don't think they're pushing his ass into the end zone. I think he's running it. I think he's actually running it.
He'd run it and he would get in, I think. I mean, I'm gonna guess he'd find a way in. I think he's the best running quarterback of all time. So if they took that approach, his numbers would be record-breaking as far as rushing. But they've given it to Gus Edwards, which I love because Lamar shouldn't be at the bottom of that pile 15, 16 times a year. It shouldn't happen.
He doesn't. I needed Lamar to score a touchdown yesterday. And every time they got into to the goal line inside the 5, I'm like, they don't need to use Lamar today. Like they didn't need to use him. And I sent that text message to my friends. I was like, they don't need to use Lamar. We're done. We're not winning this one here. So they were just so dominant. They looked like they were in cruise control at one point in that game. And again, for Miami, it's concerning because you're not playing your best football. I don't think Buffalo played very well on Sunday against New England.
Their last 2 weeks, they haven't played well.
No, so I think this game, I think you got both teams limping a little bit into it.
All right, so we talk quarterback play here. Time for the second week in a row. We're going to go with who'd you rather. Last week it was Baker Mayfield. This week, Joe Flacco. Flacco on Thursday night, first quarterback since 2021 to throw for 300 yards against the Jets, and he did it in the first half. He's playing maybe the best of the quarterbacks right now. Closing in on comeback player of the year, it's him or Hamlin. And we're only going to take playoff quarterbacks and in the hunt. All right, so time for Joe Flacco. Who'd you rather? playoff quarterbacks and quarterbacks in the hunt. Mike, all yours. Let's start with the guy we did last week, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, at this point, I'll take Flacco. He's playing better football down the stretch. I'd rather Flacco.
It's always Flacco. All right. You got some heat for this one last week. Trevor Lawrence.
Listen, if this was future, obviously it's Lawrence, but right now it's Flacco. He's playing better football and he's healthy.
Minshew.
Flacco.
Layup. Jordan Love, big win last night for for Green Bay over Minnesota.
Yeah, I might actually. Did you ask me Jordan Love last week?
I did.
And I said Baker.
You said Baker.
I might take that back, but I'm gonna go Jordan Love. He is.
Well, it's a real week-to-week league, man. I don't blame you for any of that because I agreed with you last week. I agree with you so far this week.
Yeah, it's got to be Love. He's playing. They really have something there.
All right, this one I think is tough. Jared Goff.
Wow, that's a tough one. Flacco's playing better football down the stretch right now. He really is. As much as I like Goff, I'm a Goff guy. It's got to be Flacco.
All right. Now we go to the teams in the hunt. All of those quarterbacks are in playoff spots right now. In the hunt, Kenny Pickett / Mason Rudolph.
Ah, Flacco. Rudolph, though, real nice game against Seattle.
He did. Speaking of Seattle, Geno Smith.
Flacco.
Derek Carr.
Flacco. That's easy.
Do you want to go through any of the elites? I mean, would you have Flacco over any of Hurts, Purdy, Stafford, Dak, Mahomes, Allen, Tua, Lamar?
No, I probably wouldn't. As good as he's playing, I'd still take those guys in a postseason game, but they're a dangerous team. They're a live dog for sure in the AFC.
All right, so Flacco, you're confident with him going into the postseason at least.
Yeah, the only guy I had over him was Love, right?
Yeah.
And what about you? You agree with that, or I agree with that. Somebody over him?
I agree with that. The only tough one for me is Goff, but Flacco's playing better right now. Flacco's slinging it.
It's impressive. He can still throw the ball. It looks perfect. Like it looks like he's been throwing the ball at a high level for the last 10 seasons.
You realize this is lining up for him to beat Baltimore in the second round of the playoffs, right?
That's a tough game.
You see this whole path being created right now. They're going to beat Jacksonville in the first round. I'm so confident in it. If that matchup stays, they're going to beat them in the first round. Whoever wins that division, they beat in the first round. And then they go to Baltimore, and Flacco goes to his old home turf at M&T Bank, and he's just going to start chucking it, man.
Kevin, we've been treated to some pretty bad football this year, right? Play overall has been down. We've had backup quarterbacks everywhere, third-string quarterbacks everywhere. In this scenario, fourth-string quarterbacks. And there are some great storylines heading into this postseason. Like we mentioned, you could possibly have Goff and the Lions playing Stafford back in Detroit with the Rams. You can have the storyline you just mentioned and all the rivalries going into it. I mean, everybody hates San Francisco at this point. Everybody hates Philadelphia, and everybody hates Dallas. And they're a rival, all three of them. So there's some great storylines heading into this postseason. We got lucky.
Yeah, the second round could shape up to be really incredible. I mean, before we get into some more playoff conversation here, we're going to talk in a second about the Ravens and 49ers both secured the 1 seeds. But, well, I guess had the 49ers officially clinched it?
Yeah, they're
the right? Because they're a win up, but they have the tiebreakers over everyone.
Yeah,
all right. So the second round of the playoffs could look like this: Ravens hosting the Browns. And then on the other side, you're probably going to have Dolphins, Chiefs, or Bills, Chiefs. Could the Chiefs get upset in that first round, though, by... Oh, well, they'd play... So they're going to play the winner or the loser of the AFC East in the first round, the Chiefs.
They are.
So that's... The Chiefs' path is tough to get to a Super Bowl.
What if they go 11-6? Yeah, no, because
Buffalo would have the tiebreaker.
Buffalo has a tiebreaker, and then if Miami wins, Miami would just have the better record.
Yeah, but if Miami loses, they're the 6th seed anyways.
Right.
Interesting stuff, man. What if Miami goes 11-6 and Cleveland goes 11-6? Who's the 5 and 6 seed?
Pretty sure the Browns are locked into the 5.
I think so.
Yeah, the Browns are locked into that 5 seed. So it would be the Dolphins would have the 6.
Yeah. Great times, man. This is a great AFC bracket. I wish the Texans could get the 7 seed here.
I wish we had some quarterbacks healthy. I wish
I know,
we
that's
had
why I want to
Burrow.
see. I mean, we have praised the Colts to no end here. But I'd love to see the Texans get in over them this week. Texans beat the Titans, Colts lose to the Raiders, Texans get the spot. Very possible. Raiders are playing great football.
They're playing
should've
better.
won
They're
this
playing better. Yeah. The Colts, the Magic's kind of run out. I think we could see that. I want Stroud. You want a guy like Stroud in the playoffs as many times as you can get it. Because you never know.
And they can upset the 2 seed. The Colts, the Steelers, they cannot upset the 2 seed.
No, I disagree.
What?
I don't think they could. I don't think
you don't
Stroud...
think the Texans could beat Miami or Buffalo?
Maybe Miami,
Absolutely
not
could.
Buffalo. Maybe Miami. No, I don't think they go to Buffalo.
If Stroud didn't get hurt, this team's probably the 5 seed. Or no, this team's the 4 because they would have won the division.
They're the 4. It's tough. I don't want to undervalue Stroud, but I think it would be difficult for that team just overall without just the roster and the rookie head coach. It'd be difficult to go to Buffalo. Miami, I'll give you. He could probably beat Miami.
Well, it would definitely be difficult. I mean, I'd give the 2 seed a 75% chance in that game. But the other 2 teams, the Steelers and Colts, I'm giving a 0% chance in those games.
No, that's a nothing game.
That's a 5 touchdown win for either team. That's a week 9 regular season game, and half the other team's hurt.
What do the Texans need? They need a Steelers loss and a win against the Colts.
I don't think they even need a Steelers loss.
No, I think they do.
So they need the Steelers to lose to Seattle. Possible. Seattle's playing for the 7 seed, which is probably it's not done. I mean,
wait, are the Texans 10? Are the Texans 9-7?
Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong schedule here. Texans are 9-7. Steelers just played Seattle.
Then maybe they don't need it. Maybe the Texans.
No, Texans are 9-7. Texans need a win versus the Colts. Oh, they play each other. Yeah, Texans just need to beat the Colts.
And they're in.
And if so wait. So the only way the Steelers can get in is if they tie and the Steelers win. Which is the same exact scenario from 2 years ago when the Raiders played the Chargers.
Why is that, though? Because they have the tiebreakers? Both of them have the tiebreakers over the Steelers?
Yeah.
So that's essentially a win and in for the 7 seed?
It's a win and in for the 7 seed. That's a great game.
That's a good game. And
awesome
we were talking about the scheduling. No, they put that at 8:15 on Saturday.
Yep.
Which is great. You have the 2 Saturday games.
Steelers are dust anyways. They play the Ravens. It's over.
Well, the Ravens are going to bench their guys.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You think Tyler Huntley and the backups are going to beat the Steelers?
Yeah, it's going to roll them.
The
Ravens' backup defense is going to just absolutely walk all over Pittsburgh all day.
That would be funny. That would be hysterical.
So who in this? Let's get back to let's keep the main thing here.
Yeah, please.
Main thing mentioned. Ravens and 49ers both secured a 1 seed. Who creates a tougher path for the rest of the teams in their conference having to come to play them in their place, Ravens or Niners?
I need a minute to think about that. Even though you sent me the question 20 minutes ago.
And you might say, hey, it's easy because a casual would say, hey, it's easy because the Ravens just killed the Niners. They just killed the Dolphins. They beat the Niners on the road. I mean, that's an easy one. I don't know, though, because I think home field advantage plays more for the NFC's competition.
Yeah, I think San Francisco, just because this might be an indictment on the conference, that I don't think anybody's close to them. Whereas I think if Buffalo plays, one of their better games, they could absolutely upset Baltimore in Baltimore.
Yeah, I just have a
And
better.
we're talking about a 5 seed possibly going there and winning. We're not talking about the 5 seed.
No,
We're not talking about Dallas going to San Francisco and winning that game. I mean, the
I
only
could.
team we're considering is the division rival, right? In the Rams.
The AFC, a lot of people this year have. I mean, it's kind of gone now, this narrative, because of what the Ravens have done. But a lot of people have started saying, "Oh, the AFC stinks." No, it doesn't. The top of the AFC was not throughout the season as good as the top of the NFC. Now it's really balanced out with the Eagles being horrible. We'll talk about them in a minute or two. But the AFC has 8 quality teams that could be in this thing.
Who are the 8?
It would be the playoff teams right now, and then, I'd say plus Houston. Like Indiana. All right, so 7 quality teams. I'd get rid of Indianapolis.
Yeah, just take Houston.
Well, I'd say 6. I think Jacksonville might stink now.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
I think they might be awful now. But they got a big win yesterday. I mean, they took care of business yesterday against the worst team in the league. So,
by the way, I know that Joe Barry mentioned there are 30 points against the Packer defense for the Panthers, and then 0 against the Jaguars.
Yeah, but yesterday, 10 points.
Yeah,
Joe Barry, big day.
Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins.
Who do they play this week? Bears. All right, let's talk Bears for a second. Packers play the Bears. You want to go Bears or Eagles first here? Let's go Eagles first because we're talking playoffs.
All right.
Do the Eagles suck?
Eagles suck. Defensively, they're not good. Yesterday, they looked like one of those bad Eagle teams we saw a few years ago, like in the middle of the Wentz-Hurts transition. They looked like that team, and that's concerning.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to have leaders on this team. I think there's an internal problem here in that locker room. There's got to be, because you have guys that have been here throughout everything, won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl, and this problem isn't fixed. You have Jalen Hurts, who's supposedly this great leader who, just knows how to win and is so tough. That's what I heard all offseason. Can't stump Jalen. Jalen's the guy. Problems with that team and that roster.
He's lost the podium too after these games, Jalen Hurts. He's clearly defeated. I mean, the guy, there's no doubt he's as competitive as athletes get.
Yeah.
But he's up there he's got no idea what to say. And that doesn't tell me that he's got no idea what to do. It just says, we don't know what the problem is. We just can't win. Or it says, we're just not good enough. That's how his post games feel.
See, and I might sound like a hypocrite. I've thought for the longest time the Chiefs were going to figure it out. And this will come back to the Eagles. I thought the Chiefs would figure it out. I just think they have the talent at quarterback. They have the Hall of Fame player in Kelsey, and they have the Hall of Fame coach in Andy Reid. That they're just going to somehow flip a switch and turn it on. And it might not happen, but I'll always hold out belief. They've earned that respect from me that they will sort of figure it out. Eagles haven't. And the way that you're describing Hurts shows that they don't believe they can figure this out before the season ends.
No, it's too late now. I mean, Bill Parcells always said you got to be playing your best football by Thanksgiving. It's 2024 now, and yesterday on the last day of 2023, the Eagles lost to the second or third worst team in the league. So, Kyler too. I mean, your guy last week, you got heat for that too. You saying Kyler over Baker, but not a lot of other guys. And Kyler had a great day. Kyler's their quarterback.
Kyler is their quarterback, and when he makes plays and plays the way he did in that game, it almost shocks me. I'm like, why don't I love this guy more? Let this guy be I'll take him. I'll trade for him. I'll trade for Kyler to be my quarterback. 100%. I'm a Kyler guy. I'm definitely a Kyler guy. But I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, what about A.J. Brown after these games? You see him last few weeks? Oh, my God. I have nothing to say to you guys. I have nothing to say. Come on, dude. Can you act like a professional, please? You can do all this talking after winning, but after losing now, you can't talk to the media anymore. You got nothing to say. Come on, dude.
I mean, the true colors show when you're losing. You find out who these guys are and who everyone is when they're down and they're losing. That's what it is. And I mean, the Eagles just have not given me any confidence in their mentality as a team. And I think that is a direct reflection on the coach.
Yeah.
And last year, I would have told you Nick Sirianni, as dislikable as a guy unlikable. I don't know what the word is. I don't do English.
Unlikable would work.
Unlikable?
Yeah.
As unlikable as a guy that you will find on an NFL sideline from a fan perspective. But he's a damn good coach. Now, that second part is out the window because Shane Steichen's a damn good coach. Jonathan Gannon has shown me more than I thought this year. And Nick Sirianni's team is the one out of those three that at this current moment, I think have been the most embarrassing and most poorly coached this season.
Yeah, I mean, look at Gannon, man. I mean, we spoke just how surprised we were off air about how they play for him. I mean, even early on in the season, they had a couple upset wins. They're just playing tough. They've dealt with a lot of injury, and still, look at the way they fought all season. Give them credit. One thing I wanted to say about now, I forgot it twice. Look at the last couple of games, right? You kind of thought they were fluky. The Eagles played, right? The Seahawk game, all losing there, that was fluky. And letting the Giants back in and almost losing that game, fluky. No, this game proves that those games were what the Eagles are. And that is, they're not a good football team.
They're not. This team is not able to win a title this year. I would be so shocked if they played in the NFC Championship game.
Kevin, listen, I'm not saying this from a Giants fan perspective. You know how I feel about the Giants and the Eagles matching up. Giants are a live dog on Sunday at MetLife.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the Giants Super Bowl. We talked about it off air too, how Daboll has to start beating these rivals. I mean, sure, I like the fight they showed on Christmas Day, not being able to beat Dallas, not being able to beat Philadelphia. Like this game means something to Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, and they're going to want this one. And Dallas has a cakewalk in Washington. They could potentially become the 5 and have to go to Tampa.
Yeah, because we've been saying for how many weeks now, I know we have the last 2 weeks and perfect opponents, Giants with DeVito and Tyrod Taylor, and no disrespect to Tyrod, he's shown that he's a good backup and he makes some big throws, but you get the Giants and then you got the Cardinals, 2 easy get-right games after a few losses. You lose one and you barely win the other.
Yeah.
So the Eagles have now showed you they can't do a get-right game this week. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way.
No, they have to win this game. They need this game. They have to
win it, but if they win this game 45-0, it does not change how I feel about them.
No,
because you had chances the last 2 weeks to show us. You've had chances the last 5 weeks to show us, including the tough games that you had, and you just haven't shown me that. I mean, losing to Seattle with Drew Lock too. Those are those 3 games in a row that a playoff team has to have.
Listen,
3 games in a row.
You lose to San Francisco. That there was a lot of reasons why they got blown out by San Francisco, and I'm not even talking about that. Whatever, that happened, and you lost to them, and they're a better team.
Yep.
That's whatever. Then you lose to Dallas. Okay, you haven't fared well in Dallas the past few years. Anyway, that was also a loss. But these last 3 weeks are the issue. You can't lose these games, and you can't look as poorly as you did in these games.
And sometimes when you have a stretch like this to end the season and you're a playoff team, as a fan, I've always felt this. I don't know if this is something that's felt by the players and coaches. I'd imagine that it's not really thought about, but it exists. When you have a schedule like this, and you go 4-0 to end the year, you beat the Giants twice, you beat the Cardinals, you beat the Seahawks with Drew Lock, and you beat them all comfortably. Like, kill them, blow them out of the water.
Yeah.
That's concerning because what happens when you step on the field with a real team in the postseason and they punch you in the mouth the first 2 or 3 drives? How do you respond? Are you able to? The only thing more concerning is if for those 4 weeks you suck.
Yeah.
And they have. That's the only thing more concerning with those. I mean, that's the latter is what I would have expected with the Eagles, and it's just terrible. They're awful.
You had to think they were going to really stomp on the Giants, and it looked like they were getting there. You had to think at home they're going to win comfortably against the Cardinals, and then the Giants are going to lay down for you in a game that meant nothing to anybody in week 18, and now it means something to you. Now it means something to the Giants.
Yep, exactly. Let's move on now to last segment. It doesn't go playoffs, but we want to talk a little Bears. And Justin Fields has been showing me and you because I know you feel this even stronger than I do. You know what? This guy is an NFL starter because I didn't think he was to start the year. I thought he was a really good backup and that nothing more. But he is an NFL starter. Now we hear yesterday Matt Eberflus is expected to come back for Chicago. If you were Ryan Poles, how do you operate this offseason?
I'm happy I don't have his job.
Because I said this to you yesterday. I mean, you're either in a great scenario where you have good options at quarterback, or you're in a disaster scenario where you just have a lot of options that you kind of like, but not that one clear path to winning.
Listen, they have to evaluate Fields as if he's coming out of this draft and factor in that you have to pay him very, very shortly. And if Williams still rates so much higher, it's not even close, then you got to take Caleb. I don't think Fields has played you out of considering Caleb Williams. Fields has impressed me. I like you said, I didn't think Fields is a starting quarterback this season. I thought I was never a big Justin Fields guy, and he's really turned me. But I don't think it should be for this team. I still think you should reset because as good as they've played, I don't think they're close, if that makes sense. Like the roster isn't close. I don't think they have the coach. I think winning these last few weeks has hurt them because I would like to get an offensive coach here. So I think winning has almost hurt them in a way because now Eberflus is coming back. It's tough. If you're not going to fire Eberflus, then trade number one to a team that needs a quarterback and take whoever at whatever pick, in the top 5, I would hope. And we'll take an offensive tackle, take a defensive player, and then get a weapon.
And just because I talked about it last week, I'll just introduce the scenario of a trade with a team like the Giants, like New England, but we'll use the Giants. I talked about it last week. A trade with them would look something like, you swap just for this year. I'm not going to go into the beyond this year of the draft, but just for the draft, you could swap with the Giants. You could pick at 5 and 10. You can get a good player from the Giants. You can get good picks from the Giants, second round. Then you can move around in the draft, but you could potentially walk out of this one if you trade Fields, if you trade back from the first pick. You could walk out of this with a guy like Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix, and then you can walk out with Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors or Romeo Odunes from Washington. You could leave this with a totally revamped offense. You still have DJ Moore. You have a good enough offensive line. But the problem is Eberflus and the coaching staff, because I don't want to bring Jaden Daniels into that situation. I don't want to bring Michael Penix into that situation. I just don't. And I'd rather keep Fields at that point with new weapons because you already know what you're getting from that relationship, that coaching relationship to quarterback. I would not bring in a new quarterback with this coaching staff.
He's played really good, man. He's played well. He's not turning the ball over. Obviously, we know what he could do with his legs, and he made some nice throws yesterday to DJ Moore. Maybe he is a guy. Maybe we just haven't been seeing it, or maybe he's just finally starting to show it. He may be a guy.
I think he would just be finally starting to show it because the games in the beginning of the season and last year and the year before, I mean, he just flat out wasn't able to pass. He wasn't able to read the field, especially the middle of the field. He couldn't see it. And that was one of my concerns with him coming out of Ohio State was he excelled outside the numbers. He wasn't great between the hashes. He just couldn't throw downfield between the hashes. The only game he kind of exhibited it was the Clemson game in the playoff, which he was unbelievable in that game.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I would do here because you have to evaluate whether or not the second half of the season was the fluke or the real guy. Because if you walk into next year and he stinks, everyone's gone. I mean, everyone's jobs are gone.
Yeah, you're resetting the franchise. So you might as well reset the franchise at your own choice, at your own doing, than have it reset for you and you not be here.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And I just think the floor of Caleb Williams is much higher than the floor of Justin Fields. But I don't think Caleb's going to play in Chicago. I just can't see it. I can't see it happening.
You still think he's a Giant?
Yeah, if I had to bet right now on where he would end up, I think it would be the Giants. But a place, New England fascinates me because what if they get Ben Johnson?
Then
What
I
if a
want to
guy
go
like
there.
that goes to succeed Belichick?
I think if you get an offensive coach there, I think he absolutely says yes.
And then, with everything considered, I don't think this goes into it too much. If Caleb Williams goes to the Patriots, you're just immediately looking at a division where you're trying to develop behind Buffalo, Miami. Both teams are going to score 30 on you every time they play, especially without Belichick there. And a Jets team that should be competing for playoff spots with Aaron Rodgers and a top 3 to 5 defense.
Well, just think, and I think you expect to compete early with Caleb Williams, right? But let's just say the first 2 years are a wash. You would think, okay, Aaron Rodgers' time with the Jets is done. And then Buffalo, we don't know where Buffalo's going to be. We kind of see the window closing already. Is the window going to be fully closed then? And Miami, who knows what's going to be happening with Miami then. So I don't know if that would play too much of a factor because I think by the time you're legitimately competing for a playoff spot, I think a lot could change.
Yeah, today's NFL is weird because I feel these guys are only getting 2 years now, maybe a third. But Daniel Jones, rare case where he went through 3 coaches in 4 years.
Yeah.
Because they didn't turn over the general manager also until Shane. But it's weird because if a guy sucks after 2 years, he's done. But if you look throughout history, Drew Brees sucked his first 2 years. He became the greatest passer of all time by the time he retired.
You got to give guys times. There's some situations where you do have to wait. Listen, I think
look at Fields. We're talking about Fields right now. If they pulled the plug on Fields 10 weeks ago because he still stunk, you would have never seen this and had this conversation.
Right. You got to we're impatient. That's just the way we are. We're an impatient generation now. Also, I just had a buddy text me. He's a big Eagle fan. He said, as an Eagles fan, I think I'd rather go on the road and play the NFC South champ than host the Packers at home. And I was thinking that before because I wanted to ask you who their matchup would be if they did get the 2 seed. And I think I agree with that. I think I'd rather go play the Bucs or whoever it's going to be on the road than play Jordan Love, who's playing his best football at home at a potential upset there, even though their defense is terrible.
I think the Bucs are better than the Packers, so
really,
I wouldn't want that.
You think so?
I think the Bucs are better than the Packers.
Interesting. I don't think so. I think the Packers are better. Close. Really?
Just 3 weeks ago, they blew the doors off them in Tampa.
They played?
Yeah. Baker Mayfield won NFC Player of the Week.
Oh, they went to it wasn't in Tampa. They went to they went.
Oh, they were in Lambeau. They were in Lambeau.
It was even more impressive.
Smoked them.
Yeah, I know. Love though, man, with the way Love's been playing, I know he wasn't great in that game. I think rematch. This might be just recency bias after watching what the Bucs did yesterday, but
yeah. Well, yeah, the Bucs got to get in too. Who do they play Week 18?
They play the Panthers.
Oh, so they're in.
Do they have a win-and-in scenario there?
Yep.
Interesting.
The Saints need a win and a Bucs loss,
and the Falcons are out.
Well, the Bucs. If the Saints win, the Saints have a path to get into the wild card.
Please, God, don't let that happen.
Because all those teams are 8-8. The Packers have to win this week to get in.
Yes.
If they lose, they're not getting in, obviously.
And the Rams, what's happening with them? Are they're kind of
they're clinched.
They clinch.
They clinched the 6.
Right. Oh, because Seattle lost, right.
Yeah, they clinched the 6. So they're into the 6. So season ends today. It's Rams, Lions in Detroit.
Weird 4:00 window.
It's got a high probability of happening because the Lions are almost secured in. I don't think they're going to jump to the 2 because one of Dallas or Philly are going to win.
You're right. It was a weird 4:00 window yesterday where I was kind of like getting ready for New Year's Eve, so I didn't even finish the 3 games at 4. Am I crazy or late in the year when there's a game, like when you're watching Red Zone, right? Or if you have Sunday ticket to whatever, the game's on, even though you could control what game's on or not. And they're showing like that Broncos-Chargers game. I almost feel like depressed when I'm watching that game. Just
awful,
knowing that, both of these teams are just so done. It's not even. There's no
Terrible.
reason to be playing these games. I mean, there is obviously, but you know what I mean. There's no meaning towards it.
So what about
Like,
next week? And then we'll wrap on this note. What about next week with a hypothetical like the Jets and Patriots? I guess there's a draft implication. Are you excited to see? I know it's a 1:00 game, so it doesn't go to your 4:25 narrative. But are you excited to see the draft outcome of these games, or not at all?
draft outcome in week 18, yes. I'm also excited to see that game for, I mean, obviously we're based in New York. Just the overall lack of success the Jets have had. No matter who's playing quarterback, you want to see if the Jets can get a win there. That's a different kind of game that fascinates me, and I think the New York market other than other teams. But the draft aspect, week 18, 100%, especially for a team that's going to be drafting high. As a fan of a team that's going to be drafting high.
And also, you have, I mean, from pick 2 to pick 7, all teams are within 1 win of each other.
Yeah.
So everyone, I mean, Carolina clinched the first pick yesterday, which of course is Chicago's, but everyone from that 2 to 7 can move around a lot with a Patriots win, a Washington win, Arizona win. I mean, those teams can really flip this whole thing with wins.
Are there any other games that just have no playoff implications whatsoever this week, or does every other game have?
Well, there's Raiders Broncos at 4:25.
That's a depressing game.
But I kind of don't hate it because I want to see how Antonio Pierce finishes the season.
That's the game that I don't even put on. If I have Sunday ticket and I have control over what I'm watching, that's a game I'm not putting on.
2 depressing games that have playoff implications are the NFC South teams playing each other, Falcons Saints and Buccaneers Panthers.
Yeah, pretty depressing.
Buccaneers Panthers I'm cool with.
That's fine. Yeah, I want to see how Bryce finishes the year, and obviously a win for the Bucs gets them in.
Chiefs Chargers is going to be depressing.
Yeah, because that was like, if you had to pick a game before the year, like, all right, which one's the favorite to be flexing a Sunday night? This is at least a top 3 choice to be flexing a Sunday night.
Yeah,
before the
mine
year started,
was
you know what I
Bills
mean?
Dolphins, but because I'm naive and I thought they were going to be playing for a wild card spot.
Okay, yes, right.
So I thought the Jets were going to run the division.
Patriots. Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No, I got everything. I mean, I just can't believe how bad the Eagles are. And you know what? Even if it hurts my team's draft position, I hope the Giants play spoiler on Sunday, man.
Yeah, I think that at this point in the year, the teams I think their fan bases shouldn't be rooting for wins are Washington, New England, and the Chargers. Those are the teams that I would say your fan bases should not be rooting for wins. Carolina obviously should be. You don't have a pick. Try to play spoiler on the Bucs. Giants, I think there's a culture. I think there's a culture aspect to winning football games. I really do. What else?
Well, you mentioned it to me, and I can't get it out of my head. And I brought it up before. How bad they are against their rivals. They showed the record on Christmas Day against. They're 0-4 against Dallas. They're 0-4 against Philly, including the playoff game. Like, you have to be especially to John Mara. These games mean something. You have to win some of these games.
Let me take you back quick with the Giants. Let me take you back a few years ago when I think it was 2020 to probably through 22 or first half of 22. All I heard was, oh, if we didn't win that Washington game, we would have gotten Chase Young. Well, who's happy now with Andrew Thomas and Chase Young's not even on the team that drafted him?
Yeah.
So tanking does not always or oftentimes work because look at the Jets, look at the Browns, forever and ever, look at the Jaguars. Top 5 every other year. Top 10 in the good years when you weren't top 5, you pick top 10. And there's no progress because it's an organizational flaw. The same teams pick in the bottom 12 every year with a couple swaps because players got injured. I mean, every once in a while you have like San Francisco the year they picked 3 because Garoppolo tore his ACL.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh always picks in the bottom 15. Green Bay always picks in the bottom 15. It's organizational flaws. Dallas never picks in the top. When Tony Romo got hurt, they were able to get Zeke. They never pick at the top of the draft.
And they're fantastic at drafting.
It's organizational flaws. I mean, the good teams that are drafting don't pick in the top 15 because it should only take you 1 year of drafting top 5 to get out of the top 5 if you're a good general manager. And that's typically the first year you come in. Like, I know Joe Shane didn't do it, but let's just say, first year he came in, what should have happened and what we all expected to happen was Thibodeau's really good. Neal's really good. You hit on a couple day 3 picks. You hit on your second round pick, which I like Wan'Dale Robinson. This is not me saying any of this stuff actually happened.
Right.
But then they make the playoffs. Everyone's surprised the first year, and they don't pick in the top 10 again for another 20 years because he's just really good at building a team. And I think he is, but he's just really good at building a team, and the team wins and the organization's good. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. You think these teams just invest so much in, scouting and they do, but even more in drafting and just, overall being better at drafting, doing whatever you can.
Like Patriots fans are under this assumption that you get the second pick and you're right back to 20 years of winning. Welcome to the bottom.
They do have.
Because before Brady got there and before Belichick was there with him, they were the worst franchise in the league. You had a 20-year run, and man, was it a stroke of luck that you guys took the quarterback from Michigan in the 6th round. Welcome back, because this is where you belong. This is where the Patriots organization stays. And you don't pick second with the worst roster in football and then go right back to picking 32nd. Doesn't happen.
It's going to be weird for these fans and these just people that have covered the Patriots. These, let's just start now that are going to watch this just terrible football for years after watching that 20-year run.
Picking top 5 is almost a death sentence for these teams because how many times do we see that thing too? And it's look at the players that have been taken second overall over the last 20 years, and like 2 of them are good.
Yeah.
It's just good organizations draft and develop the talent properly. Bad ones don't. That's why they pick top 5. Washington's here every year. Do I expect it to change? Probably not. I don't care that Josh Harris is there. I really don't. His other teams are average at best.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the club, guys, because you're not going anywhere. I mean, you're going to be here for a long time. So that's why wins matter late in the season. I just gave you the Giants example of a player that everyone was upset they didn't get, and it ended up working out really well for him. How many quarterbacks, right? Like the Bears getting Trubisky at the top of the draft. Oh, don't you wish you won a couple games at the end of the season so you were forced to take Watson or Mahomes? I know Watson's done now, but I'm anti-tanking. I'm anti-everything because the Jets executed, the greatest tank roster of all time, won 2 games in the last 3 weeks and got the worst quarterback ever. So, I mean, what do we do?
Well, so it's safe to say you're rooting for the Jets to beat the Patriots finally.
Yes.
You'll be rooting hard in that game.
I will be because, I mean, you don't beat them this week. When are you? They stink. They're awful.
They are, and somehow they only lose by 6 in Buffalo yesterday.
I don't think the Jets have gone into this place and won in like 45 years.
It'll be a first for you.
It's time, and if Simeon throws 1 touchdown, they will win the game.
Is the last time the playoff game? There's no way that's true.
Last time they went to New England and won was the playoff game.
That is sickening. That is sickening.
They've won in New England since 2008.
In the regular season.
That's
crazy.
And the last time they beat them at all was 2015. So if
Saleh doesn't win this game, that done.
All right, dude. I mean, if Saleh wins this game by 100, he stinks.
Well, yeah, but they should really, really consider it.
Well, it was you, right, that sat down with Rich Cimini, and he said if the last 3 weeks go, I like the report. I don't like Woody Johnson coming out. Now we're just rambling here, so apologies, but I don't like Woody Johnson coming out and saying their jobs are safe because there has to be that element of job security where a coach has to still coach for his job. I mean, am I going to try to create a conspiracy here that goes beyond the fact that the Browns are just better than the Jets? No, but the week after we hear Saleh's job is safe, they get embarrassed on national TV and the defense totally packs it in.
Defense has packed in it for 3 weeks now.
You cannot create complacency with the coaching staff and the team. This is why the Jets pick top 10 every year, because their
That-
organization is completely flawed from top to bottom. I mean, from the sorry to the water boy, but from the water boy to the owner, they are completely flawed.
It just
And-
pissed me off because I'm on that train of you should probably clean house.
Yeah,
And to just come out and say before the year ends, and like you mentioned, just that complacency now that there's basically nothing to coach for. I mean, if
No, there's
something,
not.
Kevin, if they lose the way they did prime time, and let's say they did blow that 20-0 lead against the Commanders, and then they went to New England and embarrassed themselves, that's a disaster end of the season, like Rich Cimini mentioned. He would have to go back on his word and fire the guy because there's no surviving that.
Yeah, and it's just why I don't like the way that they've conducted this entire season. I don't like the way they conducted their entire offseason. But certainly, Mike, they're going to find 3 franchise linemen to plug in front of Aaron Rodgers this year, and they're going to find a top flight wide receiver too, right? I mean,
You gotta hope and pray. You gotta hope and pray they're going to do that.
That's what everyone's telling me. That it's easy. It's easy to find 3 really high caliber linemen. That's what everyone's telling me.
Bakhtiari's coming, so there you go.
Oh, great. On that
Play
note,
a
I'm
game.
ending the stream.
To play 8 games.
That ends it. All right. Thanks for watching. BTO Sunday recap on a Monday. Last week was on a Tuesday. We'll see you next week on Sunday to discuss Week 18 games. We'll get on right before the Dolphins and Bills take the field. We'll be on at 7:30, and they take the field at 8:15, and we'll wrap before then. So make sure to come here while you're sitting on the toilet between the 4:25 games and the 8 o'clock game, and watch us on YouTube. You can just flip your phone sideways, sit there, and watch the BTO Sunday recap. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year. We'll see you in the next one.